What if I told you that you can take really cool, professional looking photos on your phone that you have right now? We're talking smartphone photos today, so let's get started. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Sam. Nice to have you here. A bit of a different video today. I know I did a music video and a kind of a documentary video, and now it's tutorials. I don't know. I'm just trying a lot of stuff. Today we're going to talk about taking epic photos with your phone. Smartphone photos have gotten pretty good to the point that you don't really need a professional camera to get really nice photos. If you're a professional photographer and that's what you do for a living, then obviously I think you're better off with a professional camera. But for most of us who are posting stuff on social media, Instagram and Facebook, do we even use Facebook anymore? I don't know. But most of the things that we want to do every day, the smartphone photos, the smartphone cameras are really good. And you can take really good photos that are comparable to professional cameras on your phone. I shoot a lot of photos and I shoot a lot of photos on my phone. This is my favorite photos of myself in a long time. We took this last year. My brother shot this photo, so shout out to him. Usually I'm behind the camera shooting photos for other people, so I rarely have photos of myself. Now this photo was shot on my phone. Now my phone is not a really expensive flagship smartphone. This is the Samsung A53 5G, but it's not a really expensive phone. It's still expensive, but it's not really expensive like the other ones like Apple that costs like a kidney to get a phone. So yeah, it's not a really expensive phone, but the photos that come out of these phones are really impressive. There are two things about a really good photo. One is actually shooting a really good photo, and the second thing is editing the photo. We're gonna be talking about the shooting part in this video, and the editing part is a part 2 of this video that's gonna be coming out later. So definitely subscribe to check that out. Before we get into the actual tips, I wanna get this one thing out of the way. When you take out your phone to take a photo, the first thing that you're gonna do is just wipe your camera lens. Because most of the time, when you take your photo out and snap your photo immediately, and then later look at the picture and like, why is it so blurry, and like, why does it look so bad? And most of the times, you might have a big fat fingerprint on your camera lens. Wipe it down with your t-shirt or some cloth that you can clean your camera lens with, but please clean your camera lens. Okay, let's get to the tips. The first thing I want to talk about is exposure and lighting. Most of us end up shooting with natural light, the light that's from the sun. We tend to shoot photos from window light or maybe outside under a shade or something. So when we are shooting with natural light, it's really important to understand how to expose and light your photos. So lighting, for the purpose of this video, we're going to keep it really simple. There is a lot of lighting techniques that you can do, but we're going to stick to 2 basic lighting techniques for this video. So number 1, front lit lighting. Front lit lighting is when you have the light source in front of your subject. Say you're shooting a photo and you have a subject right in front of you. The light is supposed to be on your side, facing your friend. So that is what you call front-lit lighting. And the second thing is backlit lighting. This is where the light source is pointing towards you. So if you're shooting the photo of your friend, the light source is behind your friend. So that is backlit lighting. So those are the 2 basic types of lighting that you can use. So frontlit lighting is not as complicated as backlit lighting. If you're backlighting your subject, it's really important to pick what you're exposing for. So if you have a really bright light behind your subject, and if you choose to expose for your subject, there's a good chance that you're gonna blow out the light source. It's gonna be way too bright and your photos are not gonna look good. Most of the time, you're better off exposing for the brightest part. That is the highlight or the light source. So when you're backlighting your subject, be very careful with what you're choosing to expose for. There's a really cool tool in your camera application. Almost every phone has this. It's called exposure lock. It's when you tap on your phone and a square appears on the screen and you can adjust the exposure of the photo manually. Most of the times when you tap it, the phone does a pretty good job of automatically exposing your photo. But if you do want to change something, you can change the exposure with that slider that appears next to that tiny little box. Okay, tip number 2. Tip number 2 is framing. Framing is basically getting the thing that you want to shoot the photo of in frame, and you want to place them in a position that is pleasing to look at. There's a tool that you can use to frame your photos, and it's called the rule of thirds. It's this 3x3 grid that appears on your viewfinder on the screen. You can use that to frame your photos. So you can either frame your subject in the center, that is called center framing, or you can frame your subject to the left or to the right. So those are the three basic ways you can frame your photo. When you are framing your subject to the center, you ideally want your subject to align with the center part of the grid. And if you are framing the subject to the left or the right, you can see those cross marks that happen with the grids. You want to frame your subject to align with those cross marks if you are framing your subject to the left or to the right. This is not like a rule that you must follow every time. There might be exceptions where you're better off not sticking to the rule of thirds, but most of the time, if you stick to the rule of thirds, you get a pretty decent photo. Okay, tip number 3, and I have a cliche name for it, and I'm calling it magic element. Yeah, the magic element. So the magic element is where you have something that motivates interest to the subject. Say you're shooting a portrait of your friend, and you just have them stand in front of a tree or in front of some greenery and shoot the photo. It's a decent photo. It looks alright, but it can look really cool if you get some leaves, or if you shoot through some leaves and frame your photo that way. That creates depth in your image, which makes the image a lot more interesting. So you can use foreground elements, you can use reflections off of reflective surfaces. If you see a puddle of water, maybe you can get your phone down to that and get some reflections and get a cool photo out of that. You can use lens flares. Lens flares are those things that appear when you point your camera directly at a light source. Some phones, they have cool lens flares and some phones don't, so be careful with lens flares. When you have your exposure and your framing locked in and you still want to add something of interest in your frame, you can use the magic element. So there's the 3 things that you can do to level up your photos on Instagram. If you just want to post a photo, if you just want to post a silly little photo, I don't think you have to keep all of these in mind. But if you want to post a really cool photo of, maybe you want to show off something, you want to look nice, you want people to notice your photo and double tap. So maybe then I think you'll get a lot out of these things that we just talked about. So there you go. Those are my 3 tips to shoot amazing photos. You don't have to have a ridiculously expensive phone to shoot good photos on your phone. The phones that we have now are pretty much good for all of the things that we do with photos on phones. So there you have it. Hope you guys liked the video. Hit that like button if you found it informative and if you got something out of it. Definitely subscribe to catch up on the videos that are going to be coming after this. Stay tuned for the part 2 of the video. The editing part is what I'm most excited about. Editing is the most fun that I have. You can take a really crappy looking photo and make it look like really cool if you know how to edit. So we're going to talk about those things in the next video. I'll see you again in the next video. Bye. What if I told you that you can... What if I... We're gonna be taking tongue twister with the videos that are gonna be blah blah blah.